You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AFTERBUZZ TV's Archer After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Archer After Show.
Hey there, Archer watchers. What's going on? What's new? What's happening? Thing is we're doing another AFTERBUZZ TV episode. This one for Archer, Season 4, Episode 6, titled Once Bitten. Appropriate enough. Thought it would be a vampire episode. Totally wasn't.
It was a snake episode.
As I found out very soon. I'm Greg Goodness.
I'm John Barrett.
Guys, I'm Dave Klein.
I'm Scott Moore.
Yeah.
And good episode tonight. We got a lot to go over. A lot of flashbacks. A lot of drug-induced. Well, not drug. Venom. Drug is venom. Sure. Why not?
Poison.
We also got a cool New York Times interview with the president of FX Networks, who is lovely enough to keep bringing us Archer week after week, beaming it into our homes and into our skulls. We're going to find out why he does what he does. But first, we got to get into what is the most glaring part of this episode. We get real deep into Archer's backstory here.
How deep?
Like rabbit hole deep, Inception level deep.
All right.
Snake venom induced.
I'm sorry,
deep.
I gotta cut you off for a second, Greg. There's only one appropriate response to the question, how deep?
Oh God.
Yeah. That's what I was hoping for, but
and what is it?
Wasn't
so how deep?
Balls deep.
That's how deep we go into Archer's past.
Who knew that Archer was the Roy Hobbs of lacrosse?
See, I have not seen
The Natural.
The Natural. What you'll have to explain the reference to me. And to America.
Everything
to
that
everyone else
happens
out there.
Yeah. For those of you who haven't seen The Natural, everything that happens to Archer on his weekend before signing with Johns Hopkins is the first act of the movie The Natural, starring Robert Redford. Only that's about baseball.
And this is lacrosse,
And this
which
is
I'm
lacrosse.
told are different sports.
You would be correct. Interestingly enough, lacrosse and baseball are not the same sport.
Does Robert Redford prance around holding his bat between his legs going, woo?
I think there is a part where he does that. I don't know. I haven't seen The Natural in forever. It's a really confusing movie.
so clearly that's a yes for those of you who haven't seen it. Meaning go out and watch it
immediately.
if you want to
after.
watch someone going woo.
Also, Wilford Brimley's in it, so duh.
That
Wow.
alone is
That's a
worth watching
win
it.
right there.
Yeah.
But
Captain Sex.
one of the great things though about the past that we get is that he's bringing up, or that we're getting these points, even though it is spoofing The Natural, and is this big spoof are these actual things that are haunting Archer and have made him the asshole that we've grown to love today.
And it explains his fear of alligators.
Yeah, and it explains that.
And crocodiles.
And, well, yeah. And not necessarily aneurysms, but...
We knew that he was good at lacrosse. We knew that he's willing to rally a entire island full of pirates into a junior lacrosse league.
Named Archers of Loaf Cross, which is the best name ever.
But that he was going to go pro or semi-pro or Johns Hopkins.
Well, he was going to get a scholarship. There's no professional lacrosse to speak of.
I'm
But
pretty
I
sure
love the full
professional.
scholarship at Johns Hopkins, though, was pretty good.
Is that a thing? Is that-
Apparently, at Johns Hopkins.
Yeah. Johns Hopkins is a big lacrosse school.
Oh, okay.
Do you not watch it on the TV?
No, I mean, guys, come on, you know me, the guy who confuses baseball for lacrosse.
Also, by the way, listeners, Greg is not kidding. He doesn't know the difference between lacrosse and baseball.
Can't even fathom. I know they're both stick involved somehow.
And a ball.
right?
2.
Maybe.
So do you guys
We're talking about golf, right?
Yeah. Oh, I thought we were talking about basketball. I don't even know if there are sticks in that.
Water polo. That's what we're doing right now, right?
Okay, so I think what I want to know and what I'm wondering for you guys is, do you think that the whole reference to the girl who shot Archer is going to play out in the future at all, or actually does have some sort of semblance on Archer and the way he treats women, potentially? Because, I mean, we do get the moment from where he's 6, which is more of a real moment where it kind of stops spoofing the natural. But do you think any of that spoof of the natural actually has anything to do with
I mean, it might, but that is just a beat for beat parody of the natural. That's what that is. And they might bring it back, but if they do, I think it's probably just to go with the natural theme.
I mean, if you want to bring in a new villain, the girl who shot you in the chest and ruined your full ride to college doing the thing that you love, that's a pretty good villain to have. She was able to jump out of a window.
Well, she dies. That's the
But that's the thing is, like, I think it's almost like she jumped out of the window and that was it. So I don't know if they're gonna.
Well, that's because
bring that out. You know,
that's one of the confusing bits about the natural is that the lady who shoots him dies, but then someone who looks kind of like her shows up later. It's a weird.
Well, maybe we'll see someone that
Maybe.
looks kind of like this femme fatale woman that shot him in the chest.
And the most interesting thing, though, that does come up is we almost get to see Archer's father. And one of the things that I loved about this scene, though, before that, is that we never really see Woodhouse and a capacity of being able to take care of Archer. But this is where you get that passive Woodhouse where he has injected himself with heroin and he's just useless. And maybe this is where a lot of Archer's hatred towards him comes from.
Yeah, it does. That actually is an interesting point that I haven't even thought about. That Woodhouse is a heroin addict. That is a part of his character the whole time. And this is the first time we see that affect Archer. And actually makes some of the what used to be very unreasonable behavior on Archer's part seem a little more reasonable.
He's like semi-functioning as far as his heroin addiction goes, and we get to see the unfunctioning part for the first time in this episode.
yeah, that's what I thought was good. The kind of that blatant
Negligence.
negligence there. Yeah, he was just totally.
Knowing me, if someone had behaved like that when I was a child, I would definitely threaten to rub sand in their eyes.
Or make them eat a bowl of spider webs.
Yeah.
But I think this is great because it's the first time that it also sort of humanizes in a way. I mean, it's still ridiculous, but the things that Archer does to Woodhouse, because before it was just so ludicrous.
You know, like it's so over the top and so mean. Like, what is he doing? Like, why is he treating him like that?
Right, and almost it doesn't justify it, but it brings forth like, okay, there's kind of a reason now that he has for doing this, which I like that they brought that in, even though it was brief and it was a comedy moment. It was still a moment that added more to his character and added depth to it.
Speaking of adding, or rather taking away, I thought it was interesting that Archer's father does not have a Russian accent, so I think we can rule out Mr. Jackoff as his father. Instead, this is a very slick guy. We can also rule out the Italian prime minister. Anyone with an accent is now not Archer's father.
Well, but also didn't I mean, maybe I was not paying close enough attention, but wasn't the voice of his father remarkably similar to the voice of the guy guiding him? Wasn't it like the same? Well, I don't know. It was 5 minutes ago.
The James Mason guy.
Yeah.
I don't know my James Mason well enough to get all the references throughout. I get that it was probably not the best James Mason impression, but I don't know. That was tough for me to follow along.
I love that when Archer first goes to the waiting area, not having, but the waiting area, he's just tooting that horn for
What the hell is that?
no reason. It's awesome. I loved it.
What does he say? I got kicked out of Episcopal boarding school, so I don't think this is heaven.
Again, building to his background and where he's coming from. Something that I do have to touch on, though, is that when we started going down the hole of, like, okay, he's been bitten by a snake, and now he's tripping out, and he's in heaven, and he's seeing people that aren't real, I thought we were going to get into a trip episode. But instead, we had just sort of this very...
This Christmas
surreal
Carol type.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was kind of great, though, to kind of, again, get to know a little bit more about Archer that we didn't know before.
Because as fun as it would have been to just see Archer in a world of crocodiles and lodgemen, as he apparently perceived around him, it was good that we actually got to 4 seasons in at this point. We get to see a little bit more of what you were speaking to, Dave. What makes Archer tick?
And you know what you're kind of talking about where you didn't expect it at first? I actually thought that at first it was going to turn out that even though Archer had been bitten in his taint, I thought it was going to end up being a non-poisonous snake, and the whole time he was just over-exaggerating it, but turns out he wasn't.
Also, quick aside, that is probably the last place I want to get bitten by a snake.
Your taint?
My taint.
Wouldn't it be just about everybody's?
I mean, as opposed to, listen, there are some much more sensitive areas around the taint area.
I think I'd rather them than the taint, honestly.
You're a strange man, John Barrett. I will never understand you, and your logic baffles me.
I think just that whole general
That's
area.
what I was gonna say. That general vicinity would be a.
Let's
How
stay
about
away
just
from
not
that.
get bitten? Just not get bitten.
Yeah,
just stay
I-
away.
honestly,
Not
I
just
think
that
I'd rather-
area.
But
rather
if you
just
were
not-
to get bitten,
Right.
Rather
Okay.
just
What
never get
area?
bitten by a snake. All right,
Especially a cobra.
I think that's where we can agree, right?
especially a cobra. for
That's the
crying
point
out
where.
loud.
So guys,
Yeah.
how about this iTunes doohickey?
iTunes. This is the first I'm hearing
No,
of it.
what
What's
is
going
that?
on?
Fancy thing you speak
It's
of.
a thing.
Are there tunes?
There are tunes on it. It is Apple's thing, and they have a little podcast app there. And an app is like a thing you get before your meal, and also some sort of weird internet thing where you can download podcasts like this one. And obviously ours is there, and you can find it there because you probably have iTunes because Apple owns everything. And find it, rate, comment, tell your friends. I believe we have some comments to discuss.
Yeah.
Can I ask you something?
No.
Do you, like, not to call you guys out on air, but do you do the exact same segue for iTunes every single week?
Basically.
It's slightly different though. Slightly.
We
Slightly different every week.
we plead a little bit different in our ignorance every single time
Okay.
that we go in.
All right.
Listen,
It's not like we have a memorized spiel.
I mean, his
Word for
spaces and idiocy are kind of equal every week.
basically, I'm the same idiot every week, so how's that? That's not going to change.
John also
Just
hasn't
different
been-
words.
Well, John also hasn't been here in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
I don't know how it could have been the same thing. But speaking on iTunes and what you mentioned, John, we did have a comment from Queenie Marie Vickers. Thank you for commenting, first of all. Fan of the show, wants us to talk a little bit more about, break down the scenes a little bit more, which I think we've kind of been doing here. So let us know if you like what we've been doing. And guys, if you do have comments, please let us know for ways that we can improve the show for you, because we just want to make this an enjoyable show for you to listen to.
Say mean things about Greg if you have them.
But yeah, please
Or
also,
John, you know, doesn't have to be me.
Greg,
Doesn't
yeah.
always have to be me.
It has to be Greg.
But guys, please also do comment and rate us on YouTube, and also you can join us on our live chat on AfterBuzzTV.com. That's at 9:30 p.m. Pacific time. That's 12:30 a.m. on the East Coast time. And check us out, and we'll chat with you live. We got Watchtower Base on here right now chatting with us, so come check us out.
Do it.
Right now.
In the now.
The absolute now. Drop whatever you're doing. I don't care if you're treating a taint wound. Get over to iTunes. Get over to the chats. Listen, guys, we like to talk. We like to hang out. We like to be buddy-buddy. Ray and Cyril,
Not so much.
we don't see that as much. And yet,
Don't.
in this episode, we're in a situation where they are forced to not...
Suck taint wounds.
Well, neither of them. They're united in their staunch opposal to sucking on taint.
Opposition.
Yes, sure. Says the guy who used thing like 47 times. while
Okay, but
describing
I
iTunes.
have to
Thing
say,
is a word.
I like
one-
opposal though. I like that was a good word.
You made that word up.
That was good.
It was a great word. All words are made up. Is the one thing that we
At
learned.
one point or another, right?
I do like just to speak a little bit to the whole Archer, getting some more of Archer's past to really shape who he is. We get a nice juicy little bit about Cyril here, which is that he killed a bear with a bow when he was 10.
Well, Ray killed a bear.
Ray,
with a
that's
bow.
I meant Ray. If I said Cyril, it's because I'm tripping balls.
Mm-hmm.
Because Greg drugged me.
Yep.
Oh, I thought you got bitten by the snake.
No, well, I will later. Hey yo.
Ooh.
But that's cool because we get to see, we're reminded after Ray's been through so many accidents and reshapings and reformations, like Ray's kind of a badass, and we forget about this when he's in a wheelchair and like severely handicapped, but Ray knows what he's doing.
Like when he lifts up a car with his back away.
That's a very good point.
With bionic
You have
legs.
bionic legs and you lifted with your back?
He's not perfect,
No.
guys.
I
But he killed a bear. What did you ever do?
well, his father then slapped him until he ate a piece of the heart. So, you know.
Which is still kind of badass.
Yeah, that is pretty
But
cool.
and I was gonna say, I thought it was great that he was back out in the field because I think we talked about this past couple episodes, sort of in the predictions. Like, are we gonna see him back out in the field now that he has his new legs that he can get out there and use? So it was good, even though he didn't do much. It was good to see him back out there in action.
How cruel is it, though, that he's back out in the field and they immediately cripple him again, where he can't move? It's like the second he gets bionic legs, they're like, no, now there's something wrong with your back.
Called it.
You'll
But see,
never...
that's what, yeah,
Called
we
it.
were talking about that though, and that's a great thing about the show. He can go back and then he can get fixed again.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
never know.
Turns out his legs weren't broken. Now they're fine.
Yeah.
Now he has bionic legs, and now he has a back problem. But he'll be fine.
Yeah,
I mean, this seems like a temporary problem at the very least.
exactly.
Ray's also quite the artist, too, which we got
yeah.
to check out in this
Yes.
episode. He actually knows how to draw a snake as opposed to what I'm
I was
assuming
gonna
was
say,
a turd
he's
with
familiar
eyes.
with snakes, so and how to draw them. So
We were all afraid that was going to end up being a penis
Well, when Cyril drew it,
when Cyril drew
I
it.
knew with 100% certainty that it was going to be a penis.
But it
So
wasn't.
it
It was
wasn't. Yeah, I'm glad I was wrong.
So it was great. It was just some sock puppet with eyes that they thought was a piece of bread with eyes, which was also fantastic.
I do have to say, Cyril held his own with the keeping up with the Turkmenistani, I guess, language. The ever-evolving language of Turkmenistan.
Well, apparently it means a snake means the same thing as bread. It
Gerp
means
Gorp.
the same
Everything is Gerp Gorp.
I kept thinking it was Go-Gurt.
thing. That would be great.
Go-Gurt.
If they pulled out Go-Gurt,
Yeah.
Go-Gurt, I would been so excited.
Yogurt.
Some go-gurt on your Gope yeah.
Yeah.
Gerp Gorp.
I feel like we're doing a Swedish chef routine right now.
I mean, that's sort of what that whole scene felt like.
All inspired by the Muppets.
That's right.
I would
Everything
watch that
is.
episode.
So I want to kind of briefly talk about the intro scene, just because I loved so much that they were negotiating over money as toilet paper, and I thought that was just such a hilarious moment that they're kind of having this bartering, trying to figure out like, you know, like $200, no, $800, no, $300,
I
and
told you I needed 1,000.
but also that when Archer first asked for the map, it's as reading something to read too, which was also great to me. Clearly, I just like toilet humor. I mean, I think that's what this indicates.
Yeah, but it was very well. Well, it's not even toilet humor. It's really pooping in the desert humor.
Ray and Cyril working together, though, to barter him down, which I find it weird that Cyril needs help as he's an accountant. You would think he would be better at talking people out of wiping their ass with money.
So this is something I'm wondering based on the beginning and also throughout the episode. Archer in the beginning was wearing one of those Russian hats that all the Turkmenistani people were wearing. Why would you wear that in the desert? Is
That's
that
what I was thinking
is
too.
that
I was like,
like
it's like
Because it gets
110
cold.
degrees.
Yeah,
well,
is
it
that
gets
at
cold
night?
in that part
like
of
for
the desert.
Russia it makes sense. For LA,
Yeah.
it's just the super Orthodox Jews who wear it. But why? Like, is that a Turkmenistani thing? I don't know, or is that just
I
some
was thinking
weird
the same
joke?
thing, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I thought that's just odd. It's like 110 degrees is what I'm assuming. You're out in the middle of the desert. Is it only? For what
Well,
reason?
At first, I thought it was Russian spies maybe that they were up against.
Well, it's the Caspian Desert, so it's gonna get real cold, real fast.
The
But,
first thing I wrote down in my notes is, what's that hat called? I feel like this episode would have been, not to say it wasn't enjoyable, I would have probably enjoyed it a lot more if I had a really thorough understanding of Turkmenistanian culture.
Well, that
Right.
seems like it's your problem.
Well,
that
maybe-
Yeah, it
seems
was
like
my
a
problem
Greg
too.
problem.
All I knew is that there was a desert there. That was about it.
Well, maybe you should Bing it. Think about that.
Bing it,
I
Greg.
should. I should figure that out. I should also watch The Natural. There are a whole lot of references that I need to catch up on.
That's
for
one of the
this
things about
episode.
Archer is if you don't get the reference, you can still
It goes
enjoy
right
it.
over your head,
but
but
there
you
are
still enjoy
so many that you like that you just get if you actually know them. So I'm sure John enjoyed this episode the most, having seen The Natural.
That's right.
I was able to enjoy this episode having no references, though, purely based on Lana's storyline.
Yeah.
And Lana going into a deep, dark place that she never wanted to go
Yeah.
before.
Speaking of people
Yeah.
learning about themselves and horrible, irreversible ways.
Are you
Lana?
finally coming out of the closet?
You wish.
Ha. I think anytime Cheryl Carroll reveals to you your actual secrets,
Yes.
it's going to be a horrible way.
bad.
And Cheryl's the one who
Badly.
reveals it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime she's speaking to you, I would just be cautious. Nothing good is going to come of that.
But she nails it, huh?
She really gets in there.
Just totally nailed her.
She was having a real, what's the term, idiot savant sort of episode where she just gets everything right.
Yeah.
She was like the whisperer this episode. She just knew what everybody was thinking. At the beginning, it was with, I think with Mallory, was it? Who she nailed it on the first thought when they were talking about some Turkmenistani thing.
Well, she does a great power loader impression, which I thought was pretty all right. I can't do it. Cheryl Carroll can do it perfectly. I can't at all. I like, though, that we actually do get to see, because Lana is always like the straight person in this episode. She's always the most controlled and grounded.
And put together and
Right.
get it all down. Yeah.
But now we get to see how truly messed up she is. And how horrible, how it's almost worse than being a Archer or a Pam or even a Carol Cheryl, just how irrational her sort of devotion to this job is.
Yeah.
And what she's expecting out of it.
Well, I mean, I think it's one of those things like deep down that everybody kind of wants in a way, that's just that appreciation and that I told you so thing. I think that's more of what it is, because that's kind of what it came out to me as. Is it's more of she just wants to feel like she's the #1 top dog and just have that I told you so moment.
Right.
I think that's what it is, and what she's really hoping and dreaming for. I don't know. I mean, it's put by Cheryl's ways. That's the reason she's staying with them. But I think it's kind of just that playing off of it's just like she just so badly wants to say "I told you so" to everybody.
Wants to come out on top of Archer. Or, yeah, phrasing. But yes. Wants to finally beat him out at his own game, at his own spy agency, his mother's own spy agency.
And I think something to mention too, just with this whole storyline, is we get to see a bunch of Krieger, and we had Joanne Ross, that's at Joanne Piston Fan on Twitter, hit us up. Wasn't happy that we didn't mention some of the Krieger stuff last week. Don't blame me, I wasn't here.
I
Don't
wasn't
blame
here
John.
either. You
guys dropped the ball.
assholes.
We did. We really messed up bad. We entered the van or flyby van. I'm not familiar with the Rush catalog. I have now pieced together that all of Krieger's vans are vaguely Rush related.
You didn't know that?
So
No,
I took some
didn't
Krieger notes.
Admit it.
His poster says "Clean or Die." in
Oh,
this
that's
episode.
always been there. I think that's
So-
always been there, right?
But one thing I thought was great was him putting icing on the mini wedding cake for the
the
mice.
rats?
That
The
was
rat wedding?
That was,
Yeah,
I think,
the
one
rat
of,
wedding thing.
I think that's one of my favorite random things, because at first you had no idea why too. He's just kind of sitting there icing a wedding cake for no reason.
I thought he was finally getting together with his Japanese hologram girlfriend. I thought they were finally
They're gonna
going to
make it
do
official,
it. Yeah, and
right?
tie the knot.
With the mini
I had
wedding
no
cake.
idea what he was doing when I was watching. I'm like, what is going on with him with the mini cake?
Make an
I had no
honest
idea.
hologram out of her. That's what he was trying. But no. Instead, he's going around willy-nilly marrying mice, rats.
They were rats.
Rice.
Yeah, they were-
That's what I
those
was
were
going to say
definitely rats.
originally. And the fact that he was able to get a little tuck screw, a little dress, I thought was particularly beautiful.
Well, I mean, he's
Took a lot
good
of
at
work.
torturing animals. So.
Man, everyone is finding love except for Lana.
No, she's
Rats
found her
are-
love, and
rats
she's
are
been
fine.
confronted with what that love is, and it's terrifying to her.
That
The
it
one
could be
love-
this dysfunctional office.
Yeah.
Everyone's
I was
got
saying, not even Archer there. You know, the rats got it before Archer.
Well, Archer almost had it, and
Almost.
then Barry killed her or whatever.
And
Turned
now,
her into a cyborg.
and now she's
Yes.
in love with him and all that, and the head of
All
the
that
KGB,
evilness.
and you know all that.
Everything's
So
the worst.
Everything.
And then
is-
Archer
just
also,
sucks.
well, Archer also had that one girl from The Natural who shot him. So
Right. So a woman who kind of looks like her is going to show up, and then Glenn Close is going to show up with his kid. Believe me, the Natural's confusing. It's a fucking confusing movie.
It's such a pleasure to have you back, Sean. Just so you can tell me what I'm missing out in all these natural movies that you keep talking about. Always talk about naturals with you.
Well, you know.
You know who's a real natural? the head of FX.
Homeboy, head of FX,
yeah.
whose
And-
name I've already forgotten.
And he dives in deep into what his philosophy is for running the network and why basically a show like Archer can stay on the air. So we're going to pick that apart a little bit here in our news and gossip section.
AfterBuzz TV News.
Boop-a-doop-boop-a-doop,
There's the
boop-a-doop-a-doop,
flying
boop-a-doop.
headlines intro I was looking for. So yeah, New York Times, which is actually a pretty unusually reputable publication for us to be discussing.
I feel
during
so
this period.
sophisticated right now.
Oh, they didn't read about the New York Times.
This was published on February 4th. It's basically an interview with John Landgraf, the president of FX Networks. And he sort of runs down his whole modus operandi over there, which is I guess his background is in creative. He was not an executive his whole life. He was at NBC in NBC's heyday, and he came over to FX and took that sort of creative approach, and just as an executive stepped back and let the creatives take over. And look at how it's worked out for FX.
Well, I was gonna say, I think he was allowing them to kind of take those risks that other networks and other places may not have wanted to go before. They wanted to take the safe route, and I have to give it to him. Like you take that little edge and you go with it, and I don't know if is it niche or niche?
Niche.
Because
I
niche
say
sounds douchey, but I say
s-
niche.
I say
Either
niche.
way, I feel like there's networks for everybody, especially in this cable landscape. So it's great to see him targeting a very specific demo
But
with these type of shows.
Here's
and
what
go a
I'd
little
say.
edgy.
Here's what I'd say to that. Like,
Take that risk.
It's not. It's like it's got a whole bunch of different niches or niches that it's filling. You've got like Justified, which is one of the most critically acclaimed the dramas on right now. Louis, which I think we can safely say is the most critically acclaimed comedy.
Takes home a lot of Emmys. A lot of Emmys.
And then things like
Well, I don't know. Modern Family takes on more, just to be devil's advocate.
Well, no, but I was gonna
But,
say, but
you
you're
know.
still going after a specific male
Yeah.
demographic overall, and being a little bit more irreverent, and,
Okay.
and that's what I think is really cool. Is that a lot of people and a lot of networks don't want to take those risks, and now seeing something like that and seeing how it's paid off.
Yeah, and it
is
has
really
paid
cool.
off.
Absolutely.
He also seems like a great person to pitch to. And the one thing I have to wonder with this is honestly how skewed it might be, because it makes him seem like the best, most awesome guy to run a network ever, where he's just like, yeah, I just kind of run what I like. And one of the things the article states is that he refuses to put on reality shows because he just doesn't like them. And that's really all there is to it. He just doesn't like them, so whatever. No reality shows. Doesn't matter about how much money you may or may not make. Which seems awesome, but I mean, you have to wonder how skewed it is.
Well, also,
But
I mean,
he does seem awesome from this article.
He's putting on Archer. He has to be pretty awesome. He's giving Adam Reed 30 minutes every week for however long the season runs. So he's all right in my book.
I think one of the things, and I don't know if it really touches on this in the article, but like one of the things that really works in favor of the creatives at FX is that those shows are cheap. Like Louis is made for like $250,000 an episode. Like they just wire him the money and he makes the episode and turns it in, no questions asked. And it's like, if you're not investing millions of dollars in episodes, then you'll be willing to give more leeway. You know what I mean?
I think in the
I
article
think
he does
that's-
talk about it being a high risk thing that he's doing, but you're right, that does kind of make it a low risk. And I'm sure, I mean, Archer has, the animation's gotten better over time, but you can tell kind of the shortcuts that they take if you watch a lot of animation where they don't fully animate things. And I mean, that's something that, you know, the creators of Archer have done for a long time, and we've seen from Adult Swim a lot, but it is a cheaper style of animation,
Yeah.
to be perfectly honest.
Let's be real, though. Archer's looking beautiful these days. When the color flushed out of him, when he got bitten by the snake, oh, man. That was a nice touch. I thought it was looking pretty sexy.
You just love that snake bite, that's all.
That's I just like the idea. I just think I found my new turn on is snake bites in the taint. So go ahead and make that, internet.
Snake bites in the taint.
So speaking of predicting what I'm going to be doing when I go home tonight, am I right?
Yes.
Your AfterBuzz TV.
Whoa!
What, do we get the wah pedal
Really
on that one?
trippy there.
Making
Nice.
it extra trippy. I love it. John, you're back. Say it.
Predict something. Predict something.
I predict that we're going to. I don't think that woman died when she jumped out of the window. I think she is a super assassin spy, and she's going to come back to finish the lacrosse player that she always tried to murder at the young age of 18. I phrased that horribly.
Again, basically the plot of The Natural. Or one of the. Oh, God. All right. Predict something. I predict that we're going to. Obviously, Barry's going to come back, and I think we're going to have a super three-way cyborg showdown.
I predict that it's kind of been dropped for a lot of episodes, and I think the Archer's father kind of making a recurrence here. I think it's going to become a theme again throughout the season at some point, where we're going to see more who is his father. You
think we're going to see him by the end of the season?
God, I hope so, but no, I don't think we are.
I was like, can we have a reveal at the end of the season, the last shot we see? I'm just going to predict that we're going to see more of these little
Sport Reynolds
vignettes of yeah, that'd be fantastic. Please, God. I want to see more of these vignettes of kind of learning more about Archer. These little one-off. It's great. Like, I've really enjoyed it because I feel like this season they've really started to dig deeper about who he is, where he came from, and I'd like to see more of that. So
awesome.
I think we're going to see more Baby Seamus.
Oh, I hope so.
The wee Baby Seamus.
Oh, Baby Seamus has to be like 3 now, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Archer's been off to college already.
Oh, I do just need to. I really would be remiss if I didn't point out. Thank you, Archer, for giving me the image of Archer getting a rim job from Janis Joplin.
Right. It's a beautiful thing to think of.
And on that note,
yes.
Everyone, if you want to follow me online, I am at Generic Maverick.
I'm at J. Dugan Barrett on the tweets.
Guys, you can find me at the Dave Klein. That's Klein.
And you can twat me at SMan80. That's SMAN80.
I see what you did there.
You went dirty with it.
Twat.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.